What are you doing? What are you... Alright, hello all my friends. I'd like to talk about perception. I keep noticing things in the entertainment. It's weird. I'll go to watch a movie or something, and I guess given the eyes to see things spiritual, they all mean something completely different to me. And I kept wanting to share all that, but it's another one of those things. It's really kind of hard to put into words and to remember everything that you're thinking about while you're watching it. But just yesterday, I'll say this: something told me to rewatch Donnie Darko. I saw it when I was in the 10th grade. It was interesting to me, you know. I'm like, well, that was trippy, and I've seen it mentioned in breakdowns from other Christian, YouTubers and stuff, probably a year or two ago. I didn't think much of it. But in the movie, there's a scene where there's a lady whose name is R. Sparrow, and she looks like she's kind of out of it, and she's always walking back and forth to her mailbox across the street. On the mailbox it says Sparrow, and I thought it quite symbolic as to how I don't know, it's like someone named Sparrow keeps looking for a message. That's all they were doing in the movie. That was it, just walking back and forth to the mailbox constantly, searching for a letter, waiting on a message. I mentioned the show American Gods the other day, and throughout the show, all these different people with this esoteric knowledge are communicating with birds. You don't understand what the birds are saying. It'll be like a crow cawing, but they're clearly communicating with them. They can understand them. As everyone knows, birds are pretty important to me. I think they are something more than what we're taught, than how we perceive them to be. Now, before I watched Donnie Darko, and this is why I brought this up, I got up yesterday morning. I grabbed my coffee, and as you can see, the yard behind me, and all these red robins and blue jays and gray jays and just different birds are out there flying around. They're eating, and I'm just kind of looking at them through this window behind me over here. I was in there, and some of them are flying up and they're hopping on the fence and all that. But as I'm standing there in this window, this one sparrow, much like the one when I told the story of me being loaded and sitting on my porch at that trailer, and this bird coming up, it was probably from me to where this fence is, so very, very close, very just out of hand's reach, and he's just aggressively looking at me and hopping forward, and he's just looking at me, and it freaked me out. I wasn't living, for God at the time, but I knew it meant something. It wasn't normal at all. He was way too comfortable. He wasn't afraid, wasn't worried about being in danger at all. And birds, I don't know, his focus was on me. He flew up, and he's just staring at me. I didn't know what it meant. So anyway, yesterday, I'm staring out this window, and this one sparrow flies up, and he lands here, and he's looking at me. He's landing on the wood, and he's looking at me. His attention is focused on me the entire time. He hops up on the bricks over there in between the mortar he's hanging on, but he's looking at me, and he kept flying as close as he could get, and he's just staring at me. I don't know what it means, but it almost had me in tears, because I see the some sign from God. What is that sign? I don't know, but it's made me think that my environment is really reacting to me. Had I had my cell phone on me and been able to pull it out to record this thing taking place, it probably wouldn't have happened. It was like there was something there that said, this is just for you. I'm telling everyone, and hopefully most will believe me. There will always be those that just say, we have an incredible way of rationalizing things, or just saying, oh, this happened because of this, and it doesn't mean anything at all. Well, if everything happens for a reason, it does mean something. So that was just a side story of something beautiful that happened in my life, but I want to talk about perception, and here's why.
These electrical signals that we recorded from will travel through these cables.
She managed to tap the vision from the brain of a cat and to reconstruct what the cat sees onto. Here we see the two images next to each other. On the left, the image that was shown to the cat. At the right, the image that is tapped out of the cat's brain.
The picture has a lot of random flickering, the noise. That's probably the noise of the actual neurons. because they sometimes fire spontaneous spikes. We consider those noise, but maybe they reflect something else, maybe the thoughts or something. But we can't distinguish that. So when we use all of those, thinking that they represent visual information, this is the reconstruction that we come up with.
It is the first time an image was tapped from a brain. It proves that we can read and understand the grammar of it. The face is recognizable, but I still can't avoid the impression that the face has something cat-like.
Now, as you saw, the guy said he couldn't help but notice that what the cat saw was something cat-like. Sure, we could say, oh, it was too unclear. There's 100 million different rational explanations for that, and that our mind is making it up. But I don't think so. It got me to wonder, you know, do the animals see it like Chop? This, you know, if everything is relative to us, beauty really is in the eye of the beholder. You know, does Chop see me as this, you know, big dog-like, you know, person? Is that his perception of me and why he loves me so much? You know, when I was a teenager, I was very depressed. I thought that I wasn't worth anything. I had no self-worth whatsoever, and I thought I was completely ugly. And some are surprised by that. I didn't date anyone in high school. I guess you know, there's a reason for everything, but it probably had a lot to do with the image that I was putting out. I had no self-confidence when it came to women, but as far as any altercations or fighting, I was real macho type, you know, like I would have beat somebody down in a split second. I guess that's a protective layer, you know, because I felt so hurt that that I didn't think anyone could love me. However, I felt attacked all the time, and so I you know, I was very comfortable defending myself or you know, aggressively combating those that had problems with me. And I bring all that up to say, you know, I go back and I look at pictures of myself, and there was nothing wrong with me. I'm sure there were a lot of people that thought that I was very attractive back then, but I didn't see myself that way. We do research for the sake of truth into these different things, and the word dimension comes up all the time. We hear the word dimension and we automatically think, you know, you got to walk through a portal to step into another world, or something of that nature, another realm, so to speak. And I've said this before, but I really believe that we're each in our own little dimension. But hang on, let me explain. It's not that we're in different worlds all over the place. I could drive to you and find you. It's just that we're not really in each other's day-to-day lives, shaking hands and everything, you know. Therefore, your world is slightly different than mine. We interact with each other and we communicate. I go to church now on Paul Adams' channel. That's where my community is, because I don't know, I felt kind of rejected and made fun of whenever I was going to these churches and seeing these changes, and then they started reacting. I don't want to say persecuting, but it was like the lightest level of persecution you could possibly imagine. Just make you feel stupid about this Mandela effect thing, or the changes of the Bible and stuff like that. And I think that is the case for many people, and it's brought us together. There's got to be a reason that we're spread out. And it says, you know, in the end times that the wheat will be amongst the tares. I think it's this way by design. So back to perception. The word perception and deception are only a few letters different. And I think the enemy is using or manipulating our perception of things so that we are deceived. For instance, the nation state of Israel is not the Israel of the Bible. I think most of us would agree. I see more similarities there. You know, the kingdom of Ethiopia in Revelation is most likely not the country Ethiopia. That's my personal belief, and there was all kinds of studies done that people of Asian descent are more African in their DNA heritage than some that live in Africa now. That may be where they originated from. I don't know. I'm just saying that there could be a deception there. If you were John the Revelator writing this, and at the time you're writing it, you see a people that you know to be of Ethiopian descent, you know, in the future, however it worked for him when he had those visions, he would write it as he saw it, you know, in his time. So that sort of makes sense. The nation of Egypt is most likely nowhere near the size that it was when those monuments were built, the pyramids. You know, there's a Sphinx in the Grand Canyon. That's what it's called. And the more you look at it and do studies on it, it's more like a carving, that it was carved and kind of weathered away. And you can see different pillars and things like that. And there are other Sphinx in India. I really think that the old Egyptian kingdom was most likely worldwide and had some connection to Nimrod or one of his kingdoms. That's my personal belief. You know, you could go down that rabbit hole if you want to. I'm just saying that the name of the nation, Egypt, when you think Egypt, you think pyramids, you think that location over there at the top of Africa. And Egypt was probably across the entire world. I think that it's possible that the pyramids that are in South America may have had some connection to them, but again, I'm speculating. You know, I don't believe the history we've been taught anymore, and I think the ancient world was probably vastly different than we've been told. There's got to be a reason that the same books that were written and passed out by those that ruled the world specifically focused on Incan and Mayan culture, and you know, a few chapters later, Egyptian culture, and they said, oh, that's two different continents, that's whatever. You know, like I said, that's my personal belief. I just see a deception there. So the reason I mentioned the thing about the bird, like I said, I believe that there's more to him than just a little bird that eats worms. But how we see it, the thing about the cat that saw something cat-like when that thing was hooked up to its brain. I've said before that I've shaken hands with angels, and people, they're, you know, especially in the body of Christ, they're like, that's beautiful, they're so willing to accept it. But you know, how do you know that we don't see those with of the Nephilim bloodline? I mentioned basketball players before. You know, they're given worldly wealth, they're very tall, but I think it's very possible that the powers that be, the ones that really rule the world, probably, you know, belong to it. It's not a coincidence that all our presidents and all these different people that run the world are all of the same family, all the way back to Vlad the Impaler. It's quite possible that's your Nephilim bloodline right there. We have a perception of the giants from the Bible being these gigantic beasts, or gigantic men. And they were, as it was told back then. There's a perception of what a giant looks like, so that if you're looking at one from that same bloodline, you wouldn't even see it as a giant. It's just a man. I can tell you, I definitely perceive these little birds to be something more. The way they tend to fly up when I'm sitting in my truck when it's cool enough, and rest on that little tree just outside view of the camera, and the way that one did yesterday with all this focus on me. Only point that I'm getting at, again, seek ye first the kingdom. All the deception will fall away to the wayside, but I think we're a lot further into certain trials and tribulations than we may think. I also don't think it's linear. We've been taught most of our life that the rapture is like that. Well, if everything is relative to each of us, and if each of you are in a slightly different realm on the same map, again, or you know, you live your own life, you get what I'm saying. Is it not possible that in the twinkling of an eye for you and the environment that surrounds you, that could happen exactly when God wants it to for you, and then the same for me. We see bodies of water turn into blood. They say it's red algae, and other stuff, you know, different rivers that have actually just went red. Floods, you know, mass animal die-offs. And it's funny when you read Revelation, at least as I did as a kid, in my teenage years, there's this perception that all this stuff is going to happen, you know, at the same time. Like the plagues of Moses. When you read that, you think, well, this is what happened first, and then this happened, and then this happened, and it may have been like that, but I'm saying, did it all happen for everybody at one time across the board? Or was it over here, and over here, and over here, and over here? But the whole time his people were delivered and protected. Time is relative, you know. It's a lot longer when you're a kid than whenever you grow up. The days grow shorter. And I think all of this other stuff may be malleable in that sort of way. So I hope all this made sense. I know I was back and forth, but I kind of see the dots being connected here, and I hope I explained it good enough for you to kind of see what I was getting at. Anyway, God bless all of you, and by the way, if any of you do feel kind of shunned and everything from society, we hang out over at Conspiracy Factualist a lot late at night. I was kind of surprised as to how many people in my community are actually up as late as I am. I have a lot of free time, and because it's the position that I've been placed in at this season in my life, and man, it's just like church, you know. I don't think that my brakes just completely not working and not being able to find anything wrong with my truck is just by chance. And so anyway, if you're looking for to fellowship, brothers and sisters in Christ, come on over there. He's on almost every night. Anyway, God bless. You'll have a good day.
You call me out upon the waters, the great unknown, where feet may fail, and there I find you in the mystery, in oceans deep, my faith will stand.